Hi everybody. Before I begin with this video, I want just to say to you that this picture, what you see, I speak in illustrations, and what I want that you understand that is not something to mocking or to ridiculizing. So when you understand that, we can begin. So I want to read the scripture, as you see, 1 Peter 2, verse 9, and we read, "But you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for a special possession, that you should declare abroad the excellencies of the one that called you out of the darkness into his wonderful light." So now, what we want to understand is that the first century Christians were called out of worldly darkness into the wonderful light of truth. There were many things, particularly matters related to prophecy and the second coming of Christ, that they did not understand. In fact, their enlightened condition was the reason Paul and others wrote them letters of counsel, which letters now comprise what we call the Greek scriptures. But even at that, in his letter to Corinthians, Paul said, until the coming of Christ, we can only see in a hazy outline, as if peering at the metal mirror. So, being called into God's wonderful light should not be thought of in terms of a singular event, but rather a process and a promise of an eventuality. But please not be confused with the watchtowers, the light keeps getting brighter axiom. The prophecy of Isaiah has an underlying theme, the blindness and deafness of God's people, a blindness and deafness that will only be remedied by the illuminating presence of Christ. For example, the 32nd chapter of Isaiah refers to the king reigning for righteousness and his princes. The princes are the sons of kingdom, not the Christian elders as the Watchtower teaches. At the time they are said to shine as brightly as the sun in the kingdom of their Father. Isaiah goes on to say, "And the eyes of those saying will not be fastened together, and the very ears of those hearing will pay attention. And the heart itself of those who are over hasty will consider knowledge, and even the tongue of the stammerers will be quickly in speaking clear things. The senseless one will no longer be called generous, and as for the unprincipled man, he will not be said to be noble, because the senseless one himself will speak mere senselessness, and his very heart will walk at what is hurtful, to walk at apostasy, and to speak against Jehovah what is wayward, to cause the soul of the hungry one to go empty, and he causes even the thirsty one to go out drink itself." Presently, the senseless ones are the leading men of Watchtower society. Assuming that there are some who are not bent on outright deception, they just can't seem to figure out that the reason they have to periodically adjust and readjust the interpretations of prophecy is because Christ did not begin ruling in 1940, despite the fact that they have now disavowed much of what was once thought to have been fulfilled, such as the beginning of the tribulation 1914, man becoming faint with fear, the separating of the sheep and goats, the appointment of the faithful slave over all the masses belonging, etc. It is still unimaginable for them that there could be another world war, global pandemic, etc., and that the sign of Christ could more authentically display itself in the future. In that respect, they are truly senseless. Jehovah's Witnesses continually praise the slave for generously providing them with nothing but the most wholesome and up-to-date knowledge. Although Jehovah's Witnesses believe the time of the end began in 1914, the fact proves otherwise. But there is another factor involved too. God allows Satan to put in place an operation of error. The operation of error that emanates from man of lawlessness has to do with deceiving God's people into accepting a fake parousia in Greek, which means, of course, coming. Then God's people into accepting a fake parousia, which of course is exactly what Jehovah's Witnesses have done. In that respect, Isaiah identifies a senseless one as walking at apostasy, which is what the man of lawlessness promotes as well. So there is considerable overlap of the prophecies. As regards the 13th chapter of Zechariah, God decrees that for those who have prophesied falsely in the name of Jehovah, or to be more correct, God will put to death those who persist in promoting the lie after Christ arrives. Take note of the fact that the most prominent feature of the sign of the Christ presence is that Jesus emphasized that there will be many deceivers and those saying the Christ is here or the Christ is there, so that Jesus said, if it were possible, even the chosen ones would be deceived. Obviously, that means the deception has to come from trusted source. Realistically, the only agency that could possibly influence and deceive Jehovah's Witnesses on the matter of Christ's return is the watchtower itself. This is, in fact, exactly what is going to occur. While the Society's 1914 error may seem superficial now, like an innocent mistake, and some within the organization's hierarchy may be trying to subtly shelf the whole thing, at the point when Christ returns, the core faction of the organization is certain to reveal itself to be an enemy of Christ, an antichrist. But as regards Christ's true disciples, God will drive the prophets out. For example, Zechariah 13:2 and 3, 4 tells us, and it must occur in the day, is the utterance of Jehovah of army, that I shall cut off the names of the idols out of the land, and they will no more be remembered, and also the prophets, and the spirit of uncleanness I shall cause to pass out of the land. And it must occur that in case a man should prophesy any more, his father and his mother, the ones who caused his birth, must also say to him, you will not live, because falsehood is what you have spoken in the name of Jehovah. And his father and his mother, the one who caused his birth, must pierce him through because of his prophesying. Needless to say, the clergy church do not speak in the name of Jehovah. They want nothing to do with the name. Only Jehovah's Witnesses have proudly spoken in the name of Jehovah, and the leadership has unquestionably taught falsehood in God's name. And if any persists after the point when Christ arrives, then they will be put to death. Evidently the second death. Also take note of the fact that God will cause to pass out of the land the false prophets and spirit of uncleanness. That is also the way Jesus explained the harvest will work. When the angels will clear out of his kingdom all persons doing lawlessness and all things causing stumbling. Obviously, God is not going to cleanse Christendom and purge the false prophets from it. Since its inception, the Watchtower Society has claimed to be God's official mouthpiece on earth, Jehovah's earthly channel. None of Jehovah's Witnesses will dispute that. That being the case, what can be said of the fact that Isaiah 43:27, God puts himself on judgment with his organization saying, "Your own spokesmen have transgressed against me." Now consider the very next verse in the 13th chapter of Zechariah. O sword, awake against my shepherd, even against the able-bodied man who is my associate, is the utterance of Jehovah of armies. Strike the shepherd, and let those of the flock be scattered, and I shall certainly turn my hand back upon those who are insignificant. According to Jesus, his arrest and trial and death fulfilled the scripture, and for a fact of all his apostles and disciples were temporarily scattered. Yet a few verses down, which is the beginning of the 14th chapter, indicates that the striking of the shepherd is preliminary to the day belonging to Jehovah. Clearly, the prophecy has a larger fulfillment during the time of the end. Of course, now the shepherd Christ cannot be harmed, but those who serve as his ambassadors can be. And that is how it ought to be understood. Thank you for watching, and God bless you.